IHC is our 2023 champions. This much we all know, but there's more to this team than meets the eye. You may be surprised to know that this is not a team that popped up in 2022. In fact, IHC started out as Zeus all the way back in 2019. This org is the OG of the OGs, so I undertook the task of discovering how they've been quiet and yet, as we find out, so consistent all these years. I went back over the last 4 years of IHC's existence to the start of this roster with Zeus and Icy in PMCO 2020. What I found surprised me, so let's dive straight into it. We're going to look at 7 major events that IHC have played in since 2020. PMCO Wildcard Finals, PMGC Finals 2020, PMWI East, PMPL SAC Spring, PMGC Finals 2022, and then of course PMGC Last Chance and Finals 2023. As I walk you through these tournaments, I want you to see if you can find a pattern in all of these games. Let's start at the beginning. For PMCO 2020, which is basically PMGC in the old days for those that don't know, Zeus brought on board Zeus and Icy. The team dominated the wildcard region, winning the semis with 3 back-to-back wins for the last 3 games, and finals with another 3 wins out of 12 games, and grabbing a slot to the big leagues. What did their strategy look like for them to be so dominant? Let's take a look. Zeus landed in South Georgia Pole or in Southwest Erangel. At the time, the team were pretty standard with their splits, i.e. they didn't really use them. What differed from other teams in those early days was their late rotations. Although that's normal now, it wasn't back then. Late through the blue, into second zone, and quietly. Zeus sneak into zones when teams aren't looking, taking the shortest route to not attract much attention and to leave more time to focus on reading the lobby. In the PMCO finals, the strategy didn't change all that much. The only change we see is the drop spot, this time going to shelter. The fight style was a 3-1 split, one of the earliest examples of the strategy that is now so popular coming into play. But again, it wasn't large. Zeus kept together in 25-meter distances or less. With this strategy, they came in 12th place. Fast forward to PMWI East 2021, some changes have been made. Godless has joined the roster. Their landing spots no longer include the southwest side of the map. Now they go either South Georgia or Shelter. It's also in this tournament that we can see a bit more clearly what they're doing. Short, late rotations that sneak into a mid position in early game. They grab a compound and will hold it as long as they can, only moving in late game when they have to, or when a better position no one is looking at pops up. While they're not an aggressive team, the playstyle of the day didn't demand it and allowed them to shine as a defensive team. Zeus missed out on PMGC in 2021, so the next time we see them is in PMPL SAC Spring 2022. Here, they've changed their name to the IHC that we all know. Other than that, they remain largely the same. Shelter is now their primary drop, but they're still playing slow, late, and quiet. Compounds are still where they shine, as they've continued to hone their craft and manipulate enemies to be right where they want them. This is a brainy team, not a brawny one. In PMGC 2022, they finally started getting some more global attention. Placing 4th in the finals, they really started to come into their own in this event. They're still keeping their no-split rule, but they're more aggressive to adapt to the playstyle the lobby demands. They're also more comfortable. They're using longer rotations, organized and together, and let me show you this clip from Day 3, Game 13. Anytime you see a team moving like this, means they're confident, cohesive, and controlled. And now we come to the tournament, the reason I'm making this video in the first place. PMGC 2023. A lot of fans were surprised to see them struggle in the league stage, and having watched their last few years, I can see why. This IHC was not the team we normally can expect. For starters, they switched up their drop to Novo, which was a drop clash. They were also hit with the jarring change of teams now using huge splits across sides of the zone to cover as much ground as possible. For a late-to-the-party, close-knit team like IHC, this posed some problems. With no compounds to grab and no empty areas of zone to use, IHC became hesitant, which of course for stronger teams like STE was the perfect mindset to control. IHC managed to squeak their way to the finals, however, and it was here that their adaptability worked in their favor. They had an extremely quick switch between the 2 stages. They played mid to edge throughout the game. They became more aggressive as well, no longer relying on just those crashes for kills and being preemptive. Now, this is just their Erangel strategy. If I were to analyze all the maps, we would be here for weeks, but I hope this gives you some insight into our current champions and how they operate. If you're like me, and I'm going to out myself here, you're probably surprised they won, and to you, IHC feels like some young upstart that stole the victory from STE and their incredible 2023 season. But that's not entirely true. Yes, they stole it in the last day from Stalwart, but they're actually an older org and a roster that began at around the same time as them. In fact, I would argue that Stalwart got much of their strategy from IHC. It's very similar how they both avoid teams, both know where in the zone is empty, and both keep their squad up and running to surprise their enemies in the last zone. While 2023 wasn't as loud for IHC as it was for Stalwart, this has been a long time coming and very well deserved. By the way, did you find the pattern? It's my favorite thing about this team, and it's how little they have changed their strategy over the last 4 years. I think it's a lesson for all the teams looking to make it big. Everyone's first thought when something isn't working is to change either the strategy or one of the players. To me, this is a sign of an inexperienced team, this constant changing. Yes, once in a while things need refreshing, updating, and new blood, but the best teams in the world have all been teams that have been together for several years, and have spent those years mastering their strategy. Notice my choice of words there. Mastering, not changing. IHC is a bit of an extreme because they've hardly changed anything in several years, but Nova, S2G, and GG all had similar paths. IHC played the long game, and in 2023, it worked.